Podcast. My name is Nick.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I don't know. You said it like you just learned what your name was. I'm Brandon.
Different.
That's who I am. That's my name.
Welcome to the Tennis Podcast. My name is Nick.
I'm Brandon.
Brandon, how do you feel about your geography?
I feel comfortable about geography.
Could you name all 50 state capitals if you had to?
No.
Well, then you're not as comfortable.
But I could put them together in a puzzle. I know their shapes and their placements.
Maybe we'll save that for our Putting Puzzles Together in Real-Time podcast. But for now, this is the top 10-ish. Well, this is the Tennis Podcast where we discuss top 10-ish lists. And if you couldn't tell by now, I have a list prepared and Mr. Brandon over there doesn't know what it is. And I'm about to tell him. And it's about to blow his mind.
Tell me.
We are going to be looking at the largest metropolitan areas in the United States by population.
I've got this.
Now, that might sound boring, but I got some little tricks up my sleeve to make it interesting. So, metropolitan area, for those that don't know, you have a big city like New York, and then there's lots of surrounding small to big cities surrounding New York, and it's all considered the New York City metropolitan area. It's a place where a large city anchors a larger community. So lots of times if you live outside a big city and someone asks where you're from, you probably just say, I'm from New York or Dallas or whatever the big city is, even if you don't actually live within the city limits. Today, we're going to be talking about the biggest metropolitan areas. Was that a good explanation, Brandon?
Yeah, for everyone who didn't know what a city was, I think you nailed it.
Well, I literally gave the definition of what a metropolitan area is and why it's different than a city.
Explain to the folks at home what an area is.
Right. Why don't we start by you, one, discontinuing your efforts to be an asshole, and B, tell me what cities, or excuse me, what you don't. For the sake of this discussion, you can just call them cities, but just know that we're talking about the metropolitan area. So, what cities would you say are definitely not in the top 10?
Bug Tussle, Oklahoma is not in the top 10. Memphis. I know we've been shitting on Memphis a lot. You hate Memphis.
Let's go back to Bug Tussle for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're recording. This episode's going to be listened to by millions. I want to give you a chance to retract that statement so that you're not embarrassed when Bug Tussle lands at number 3.
Millions of people are not from Bug Tussle.
Bug Tussle's not, and Memphis is also not, which I'm sure you're thrilled about, given how much you hope everyone in Memphis dies a horrible death.
I never said that.
What else?
None of the cities outside of the contiguous 48 states, the lower 48, nothing in Puerto Rico, nothing in Alaska or Hawaii.
You're right on that. And by the way, for any confused listeners out there, context on Brandon's hate for Memphis is in our last episode, episode 6, the best-selling music artists of all time. And to answer your question, you're right. There is no Anchorage. There is no Honolulu. Honolulu is number 56. That's the closest.
I knew it.
Yeah. What about Scranton, PA?
It's not going to be on the list. Although, I am going to make a bold claim now that 8 out of 10 of the cities on this list will be located near the shore of the sea.
8 out of 10 is wrong, but there is a lot.
Well, I'll grill you on that once I have the full list. That's it. Those are the only cities that I'm for certain are not on the top 10. Anything else is up for discussion.
I'll say that there are 383 recognized metropolitan areas in the United States, according to the United States Census Bureau, which, by the way, is where I got all of my info. Do you think Akron, Ohio is in the top 10?
No. And it's Akron. Did you say Acorn, Ohio?
I said shut the fuck up, Ohio. What about Augusta, Georgia?
No. Atlanta, Georgia might be.
We'll get to that. Pine Bluff, Arkansas.
It might be.
You know, I said there was 383 recognized metro areas. Pine Bluff is number 365. And what about home to you and I, and the real home of the free, Tulsa, Oklahoma?
Like, is it in the top 10?
Yeah.
I don't think it's in the top 100. No, it's in the top 100.
It's number 54.
I knew it.
All right, should we get into it?
Let's just do it.
Give me some cities that you know are in the top 10.
I know that New York City is number 1 on your list.
Let's pause real quick. Do you like it better when I reveal the rankings as we go or when I save them to the end?
As we go.
All right. Is New York your first guess?
New York is my first. Well, it's not my final answer, but yeah, it's my guess.
New York City. The metropolitan area surrounding New York City is number 1 on the list.
Is it 9 or 10 million?
Well, I have the metropolitan population in front of me, and it is 20 million.
Oh.
In New York City Metro and in New York City proper, which includes the 5 boroughs, 8.6.
Boroughs.
God damn it. Boroughs. Thank you.
Like little donkeys.
Yep. We're moving on. 8.6 million in city proper, which, by the way, 8.6 million in city proper is larger than all but 2 metro areas in the entire U.S.
Duh.
It's remarkable. I got some New York facts for you. Are you ready?
Yes.
Over 20 million residents in the New York metro area, which also includes Newark, New Jersey, Jersey City. Median home listing, $849,000. What do you think of that, Brandon? Could you afford to live in New York City?
Absolutely not. I do wonder, though, that's not the most expensive real estate in the U.S., though. Isn't it even more expensive in San Francisco?
I don't know off the top of my head, but San Francisco and New York are 1 and 2. It's just a matter of which one's higher.
No, I could afford to die in New York, but I could not afford to live there.
I'd argue that even. Some other things about New York. Nicknames, the Big Apple, the city that never sleeps.
Those are 2 names.
Brandon, if you were a city, your nickname would be the city that never says anything intelligent.
I like that you sounded like you were about to rattle off a whole list of nicknames, and there were just 2.
The Big Apple would also apply to you, but maybe the Big Asshole would be better. New York City is home to the number 1 and number 2 most visited tourist attractions in the entire United States. Do you know what those are?
Is one of them is not Trump Tower?
No.
I'm going to say it's the Statue of Liberty in the Empire State Building.
You're wrong on both, believe it or not.
Well, I think your list is probably wrong then. In fact, well, I would say that your best view, cheap and easy view of the Statue of Liberty is to just take the Staten Island ferry.
Yeah, I'd second that. Okay, do you want to know number 1 and 2 is?
Yes.
The number 1 and 2 most visited tourist attractions in the country are Times Square and Central Park, with those 2 combined over 80 million visitors annually on average.
I don't understand what people do for fun in Times Square.
Don't you give to the poor and you buy little drawings of yourself on the street or drawings of celebrities, and then you eat a hot dog.
Or when you say you give money to the poor, are you talking about guys dressed as Spider-Man?
Yes. Have you ever dressed as Spider-Man, or I'll accept any superhero, and performed on the streets of New York?
No, I guess I couldn't attest to how difficult that is.
Yeah.
I don't see, Times Square just does not seem like a fun place to me. There's TGI Fridays and a lot of ads.
I think Times Square is something that everyone should do once. Although I agree. I kind of avoid it when I can, whenever I visit New York now. But when the first time you go to New York, especially if you're from Tulsa, Oklahoma, I mean, it's a cool, like, breathtaking.
It's something amazing for a slack-jawed yokel to take in.
Exactly. I mean, took the words out of my mouth, out of my head. Do you feel the same about Central Park, that it's a piece of shit and only yokels could enjoy it?
No, Central Park's pretty cool.
Yeah. Speaking of Central Park West is where John Lennon was shot and killed in 1980. But I know that you already know that, Brandon.
Yeah, I know dark stuff. Yeah, I guess when you think of New York, you immediately think of John Lennon being murdered.
Well, I've kind of captured my thoughts on each of these entries on what I think of, and John Lennon was one of them for me.
For Central Park, you think of John Lennon being murdered?
You had a hearing problem? That's what I said.
Well, just a few blocks down from there is Dana Barrett's apartment building from Ghostbusters, which you will remember was taken over by Gozer
Is Roger Rabbit's house down there too?
And the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man showed up to destroy it. So that's what I think of when I think of Central Park West.
Not Roger Rabbit.
Mm-mm. That was in Los Angeles.
You know what else is in New York?
Tell me.
Well, I'm saying what one other thing is in New York.
One other thing? There's just the one other thing in New York is the real guy who Kramer was based on.
Okay, well, that is where I was going. Seinfeld is in New York. And last time I was in, well, not the last time, but a recent time I was in New York, I did hit all the Seinfeld spots. So there you go. If you ever have any questions about the real world of Seinfeld, just give me a call, Brandon. I can answer for you.
Yeah, feel free to reach out to Nick on the Facebooks and Twitter and ask him about something that you're most likely not at all interested in.
Okay. I have a few other facts for you. New York is the largest single-operator rapid transit system worldwide with 472 rail stations.
I believe it.
Anchored by Wall Street in the financial district of Lower Manhattan, New York City has been called the most economically powerful city and the leading financial center of the world.
Well, yeah, that's where Donald Trump made his bones and built his golden tower.
Golden Tower, okay. Well, you know, that's interesting about New York being the most economically powerful because it is not the biggest city in the world.
The biggest city in the world?
It's not the most populous city in the world.
Tokyo. Do you know the most populous city in the world?
I can tell you. Hang on. Largest city in the world by population is Shanghai.
God damn.
New York is not in the top 10.
I was going to say I wouldn't think so. Tokyo, Beijing, Hong Kong, Mumbai,
Istanbul,
Bangkok.
All right, moving on.
Shuttlecock.
Last thing for New York. For each of these entries, I put down the first movie or television show I think of when I think of that city. Do you want to know? And I wrote these in the moment. I did not think about them or research. I just said, what am I thinking right now? And I wrote it down.
I can't wait.
Home Alone 2.
Which also features a cameo by Donald Trump. It was part of traveling to Home Alone in New York is you got to meet Donald Trump. He is synonymous with the New York experience.
You know, Donald Trump showed up in a lot of those 90s movies. He was in Little Rascals, too. Do you remember that?
Yes, and I've heard, there's stories around even his little cameos in those crappy movies.
Crappy movies? Whoa. Home Alone 2 and Little Rascals, crappy movies?
I apologize.
Do you really mean that?
No, I would watch either one of those.
God, I was about to jump out of my chair. Oh, I left off one fact, and then we will move on, I promise. The last fact for New York is that it is the number 2 city in the U.S. for worst traffic. There is a city on here with worse.
I think I know 2 good candidates for that city.
New York City, the average wait time in traffic for the average driver is 91 hours a year. If you live in New York and you drive a car, you are sitting in traffic for around 91 hours per year.
You just spent 2 weeks and a day in your car farting and feeling angry. The first thing I think of when I think of New York in that same way is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Ooh, that's a good one too. All right, let's move on from New York. Who else is in the top 10?
Well, I know number 2 has to be Los Angeles.
All right, so far this is not an interesting list because you are right. Los Angeles is number 2. I'm
so goddamn smart.
But I promise you, constant listener, that there are some...
Constantly downloading our podcast.
Can I finish now?
Mm-hmm.
I promise you, constant listener, there are some surprises on this list, so hang tight. Los Angeles is number 2. So do you remember when I said that New York Metro had 20 million?
Yes.
Los Angeles Metro, which includes Long Beach, Anaheim, has 13 million. It's quite a bit below New York. New York is
not as many million.
Thank you. New York is head and shoulders above the competition. I have a myriad of facts for you about LA. You tell me when you're ready and I'll just go.
Yeah, I'm ready. Tell me some facts about Los Angeles.
The median home listing in Los Angeles is 775,000, down about 75,000 from New York. Los Angeles has many nicknames, including City of Angels, La La Land, the Big Orange, which I've never heard.
Never heard.
Tinseltown. Los Angeles was occupied by several different nations, but ended up with We ended up with Los Angeles. After the Mexican-American War, America took control of Los Angeles in the year 1847. And it's a good thing we're talking about LA right after New York, because LA is ranked number 1 for worst traffic in the U.S. The average driver in Los Angeles spends about 102 hours per year spent in traffic.
Don't live there.
102 hours per year. Think of all the episodes of the Tennis podcast you could be downloading and listening to as a constant listener during those 102 hours sitting in traffic.
All of them 30 plus times each.
Please do that. One second, I need to look something up.
Well, while you're looking things up, I'm going to tell you the thing that I first think of when I think of Los Angeles, and that is The Big Lebowski.
The Big Lebowski, huh? You like that movie, Brandon?
I love The Big Lebowski. It is one of my favorite films, and I would say that Los Angeles plays a big part in it. The character and the tone of Los Angeles. And the noir films that were set there in the 30s and 40s also have a big part in making The Big Lebowski what it is.
Do you want to know what I was looking up a minute ago?
Yes.
I was looking up how much time the average person spends in their life sitting in traffic. 229,961 hours, which is basically 1/3 of your life is in traffic. Makes me sick, Brandon.
Well, you get a car that you enjoy driving and a podcast that you enjoy listening to.
And while you're sitting in traffic, actually while you're driving, because it'll give you an adrenaline rush.
And a distraction from the boredom of driving.
Yeah, and you should also, while driving, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at 10ishpod. 10ishpod. Okay. Los Angeles is home to the second busiest airport in the United States, LAX, which is also the 5th busiest airport in the entire world. There's a whole other list for another episode. Brandon, here's a little known fact about Los Angeles. It is home to Hollywood. Did you know that?
It sounds familiar. Tell me more about this Hollywood.
Well, I think Hollywood's where they go to watch Ghostbusters.
I need to go there.
Los Angeles, I actually don't know if this is the original home of In-N-Out Burger, but I always think of In-N-Out Burger when I go to Los Angeles, and I always make sure to stop by there.
Fucking pig.
First movie I think of when I think of Los Angeles is... I actually forgot to write one down.
Escape from Los Angeles.
Escape from Los Angeles was my movie. Is that a real movie?
Yes.
Oh, here's one. Battle Los Angeles.
What the hell is that?
You've heard of that. Isn't that what it's called?
Is it Space Aliens? Yeah, it's Space Aliens.
Yeah, aliens come.
I've never seen it, but I remember the previews.
Yeah, it's nothing to go out of your way for. All right, Los Angeles, New York. You hit 1 and 2. You got 8 left.
Houston, Texas.
Wait, Houston, Texas, or Houston, Montana?
Houston, Texas.
Okay. Houston, Texas is on the list. It comes in at number 5. The Houston metro area includes the Woodlands, Sugarland, and it has a population of about 6.89 million. Nicknames for Houston include Space City.
What?
Space City. It's home of NASA's Johnson Space Center.
Yeah.
So any other dumb questions?
Never heard it called Space City.
Bio City, or I can never say this word. Bio, B-A-Y-O-U.
Bayou.
God, you're just letting me suffer here. Bayou
This
City.
is 3 words. This is 3 very common words so far in this recording that your brain has slid down your nose and down your face as you tried to speak.
Are you done?
Bayou.
Are you done?
Bayou.
H-Town and the Big Heart are other common nicknames for Houston, I'm told. Houston is the largest city on the top 10 by area, and the 9th most expansive city in all of the U.S., with a land area of about 600 square miles. And believe me, you feel every one of those miles when you're driving around Houston. Houston was incorporated in the year 1837. It's named after former General Sam Houston, who was president of the Republic of Texas and had won Texas's independence from Mexico at the Battle of San Jacinto. What do you think about people that think Texas should be its own country again?
Oh, there's people that think that?
Yeah.
That want to secede from the Union?
Did I stutter?
Well, I mean, if they want to do it, fine. But I don't know.
Yeah, Texas is like the only state in the U.S. where they hold the Texas flag higher than the United States flag.
Isn't that...
I don't know if that's actually literally true, but...
I don't know if that's true, like, in the sense of it's a fact, or if it's just something I said.
We got a podcast and we can say whatever we'd like, and it becomes truth immediately.
We got a 10,000 megawatt flamethrower aimed straight at your earbuds.
Did you know that Houston was originally purchased by the Allen brothers for $5,000?
I wish you could see the look on my face right now. You can just buy a city?
Well, they bought a area that included Houston and others for $5,000, and only $1,000 of that was cash. The rest was to be paid later.
What year was that? And who did they buy it from?
Well, if you're that interested, hold on, and I'll find it.
Is this something where they bought, like, the island of Manhattan from some Native Americans?
Right, I'm going to read you
for beads.
I'm going to read you the exact statement that I got this from. The Allen brothers explored town sites on Buffalo Bayou and Galveston Bay. According to historian David McComb, the brothers in August 1836 bought from Elizabeth E. Perrow the south half of the lower league granted to her by her late husband. They paid $5,000 total, but only $1,000 of this in cash. Notes made up the remainder.
All right.
And
I'm like waiting for like when
what?
When like Mark Zuckerberg will decide like, I think I want to buy Palo Alto.
Well, haven't you seen Schitt's Creek, the show?
Yeah, but I don't remember anything about it.
They bought the town in that one too.
I don't understand that. How do you bought the town? Do you own the people in it?
But yeah, you would. I get your point, though. You'd think that'd be happening a lot more often if that was the case. All right, Houston is the one on this list where when I tried to think of a movie, I could not think of a movie. Can you think of a movie that took place in Houston?
No.
Yeah.
When I think of Houston, I think of J.J. Watt from the Houston Texans, and that's it.
Houston Texans, aren't they NHL champs? 98, 93, and 64?
No. I think Houston may have a hockey team, but this is professional football.
Oh, yeah, I love soccer. Okay, so you got Houston number 5, LA number 2, New York number 1.
Chicago.
I gotta find a way to vary this list up. Chicago is number 3. 9.5 million in the metro area. The median home listing in Chicago is 245,000. The nicknames for Chicago...
That's not that bad.
No, it's not. Nicknames for Chicago are... That's actually really good. The Windy City, the Second City, and Chi-Town. Have you heard of all those? I've
heard of all those.
Okay.
How about the City of Big Shoulders?
Yeah, I've heard that. I don't have it down here, though. Chicago was incorporated in the year 1837, and here's an interesting fact. The city was largely destroyed after the Great Chicago Fire of 1871, leaving more than 100,000 citizens homeless.
Yes.
But it has since been rebuilt, I'm told.
It is one of many developments that led to... Shit, now I can't think of it.
I'm going to hang on to every word here.
You're going to be cutting the shit out of this. The Great Chicago Fire is one of the things that led to H.H. Holmes being able to purchase and build his murder castle around the time of the Chicago World's Fair and murder people in his murder castle.
Speaking of, when's that movie with Leo coming out? I'll just text Leo. He's a listener of the show. We established that last episode.
Shout out, Leo. Let us know what's going on with the H.H. Holmes Murder Castle movie.
And teaser for our constant listeners, we do have a serial killer themed episode coming very soon. First movie I think of for Chicago, get ready, Home Alone.
Oh, they did live in the Chicagoland area.
Yep.
Well, I believe that movie was written by John Hughes, who most of his movies take place in the Chicago suburbs. And the first movie I think of when I think of Chicago is also a John Hughes movie that takes place in the Chicago suburbs. And that's Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh, that's a good one. What was the guy's name? John
Hughes?
Yeah, my favorite thing about John Hughes, hell of an ass.
Don't speak ill of the dead.
Even better. All right, I'm going to take a pause here, and I'm going to read off some heavy hitters that a lot of people might guess are in the top 10, but are not.
Well, I wouldn't guess that because so far I'm batting 1,000.
The cities of St. Louis, Kansas City, Las Vegas, Cleveland, Portland, Maine and Oregon, Orlando, Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, New Orleans, Nashville, and the bane of Brandon's existence, Memphis. None of those have even cracked the top 20.
They're not even in the top 20?
Nope. I told you, smartass. You were saying how good you're doing, and
Well, I am.
well, okay, fine. I'll give you that. You're doing good. But none of those cities are in the top 20.
Good. Now I'm not going to guess them. I wasn't anyway, because I don't need those guesses. Are you ready for another heater?
Let me think about it for a minute. Am I ready? Mind if I get back to you in a few days? I really want to run that by the wife and write out the pros and cons. Take a few days just to sleep on it.
Atlanta, Georgia.
I wasn't ready, but okay. Atlanta, Georgia is number 9.
I knew it.
Good job. Atlanta, Georgia, home of Chick-fil-A.
Okay.
The metro area is 5
I can see, like, if you were drawing a map for someone of the United States of America over Georgia, you just draw the Chick-fil-A logo.
Well, what else is there to draw for Atlanta? Thank you.
Hundreds of years of history and culture.
5.88 million people. It's the capital of the state of Georgia, which means, I believe, it's the largest capital in the U.S. At least the metro is. It is home, get this, it is home of the number 1 airport by passenger traffic in the entire world, not just the U.S. Atlanta, Georgia has more people flying through than any airport in the world.
It's your favorite airport.
Oh, that's the airport where you ate the hot dog over the trash can, right? Is that why you're saying that?
The truth about this story.
No.
Let me verify the accuracy of the story. So the story that Nick wants to tell is that we were in the Atlanta airport and that I purchased a hot dog and that I stood over a trash can that also compacts trash and used it as a disgusting tabletop in which to inhale said hot dog. All of that is 100% true, except it wasn't me, it was Nick.
Well, we just established a minute ago that we can say whatever we want on podcasts, so it's your word versus mine.
Little he said.
But, I mean, I think most people would agree that between the two of us, you're the more disgusting of the two, so I think people would have a easier time believing that it was you than it was me.
What's the first thing you think of when you think of Atlanta?
First of all,
besides Chick-fil-A.
I want to clarify the airport we've been talking about is Hartsfield-Jackson. And
I didn't even know that airport had a name.
There you go. Fun fact about Atlanta, besides...
Well, you always call it Hot Dog Town.
Other names for Atlanta were Hot Dog Town, number 1, but it was originally known as Terminus.
Ooh, that doesn't sound good.
Thrasherville. Marthasville.
All of these sounds like the name of horror movies.
Atlantica Pacifica, which was the last name before it was shortened to just Atlanta in 1847. Would you want to live in Thrasherville?
No, that sounds like a place where at night...
Unlimited hot dogs?
At night, a deformed man holding a scythe climbs out of the fields and thrashes you.
Would you rather live there or Memphis?
Thrasherville.
All right, the first movie, which is actually a TV show that I think of, is The Walking Dead, which they're no longer in Atlanta, but they started in the Atlanta area. That's where Rick travels to in episode 1.
Well, I think of the TV show Atlanta.
I won't accept that answer. Give me a second choice.
Smokey and the Bandit starts out in Georgia. I don't know that it's I think it might be in the greater Atlanta area.
Are your frame of references only like 7 or 8 things deep?
Have I mentioned Smokey?
No, Burt Reynolds.
Well, Burt Reynolds
Roger Rabbit, Ghostbusters, Star Wars. I guess we'll add the show Atlanta to the list.
Did you just X-ray my soul?
That's all that's in there. If we unscrewed your head and dumped you out, that's what would fall out. And if it doesn't have to do with one of those things, you
don't care.
You never heard of it.
Don't care.
Okay, I'm gonna say something controversial.
Okay.
And it's gonna lose us a lot of listeners in Atlanta, but screw it. I'd call Atlanta, well, Houston.
He's walking it back.
Either Houston or Atlanta. One of those cities ranks number 1 for me on most boring cities in this top 10.
Houston, most boring city. Easy.
No offense, guys. And they're great cities. I mean,
no offense. It's just an oil and gas, desolate, boring, wide, expansive, crowded, hot, humid,
traffic
hole.
Okay. So now that all of our Houston listeners have dropped off.
There's no Memphis. You guys still have it over Memphis.
Yeah. All right. Who else is in the top 10?
Can I say something about Memphis?
Please.
If you are going through Memphis, stop by at Jim Neely's Interstate Barbecue. It is an undiscovered gem in Memphis.
So you'll shit on Memphis every chance you get, especially off air. Guys, all he talks to me about is how much he hates Memphis. I can barely get a word in otherwise.
But not Jim Neely.
But as long as they serve you and serve your beck and call so you can fill your gullet with barbecue. I mean, look at this. Look how easy it is to believe that you were the one holding that hot dog over the trash can.
Jim Neely's Interstate Barbecue and Gus's Fried Chicken. Worst place to eat in Memphis? B.B. King's House of Blues. Because B.B. King does not do substitutions. If you want it your way, get the fuck out of B.B. King's house.
Head on over to Burger King.
Yeah. All right, that's Memphis put to bed.
I'm sure it'll come up again. I'm really sorry, people of Memphis. Okay, so what else is in the top 10?
San Francisco, California.
Your first miss.
Is not in the top 10?
Nope. San Francisco is number 12. 4.7 million.
What about Philadelphia?
Philadelphia is number 8. Metro area for Philly includes Camden and Wilmington. There's about 6.1 million people here. Nicknames, I bet you can't guess this. The City of Brotherly Love. Do you remember that show? I think it was called Brotherly Love.
No.
Okay, well, by the way, I've been getting lots of messages from people saying that you're an idiot for not knowing the song Blue from last week.
Well, I hadn't heard it. Sorry.
You've heard it. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You have heard the song. As much as I know that the sky is blue and that the grass is green, I know that Brandon hates Memphis, Brandon loves Killer Clowns from Space, and that Brandon has heard this song. You know why? Because everyone has heard this song.
Get ready to mark and edit, because I'm going to pull this song up right now, and I'll tell you if I've ever heard it.
It's called I'm Blue. Everyone, we're going to take a brief pause while Brandon goes and listens. Since Brandon is an old man, as we all know, he pecks at the keyboard with one finger at a time. It'll take him a while to find that. We do have some time to kill. So while he's looking for that, I'm going to tell you about another podcast we've been getting into recently, because here at the 10ish Podcast, we do love to support other podcasters like us. So if you're like Brandon and you have loads and loads and loads and loads of inappropriate and messed up searches on your browser, this is the podcast for you. It's called the Clear Your History Podcast, who invite you to pull up that old incognito window you know oh so well and join them as they discover the internet's weirdest stuff. Some examples include the Pain Olympics, the Internet Black Widow, mobile mansions, haunted grave sites, the Genie Missile Test, and much more. It's a great little podcast. Definitely give them a try by searching for Clear Your History Podcast. Wherever you listen to podcasts, just don't forget, always clear your history. All right, everyone, we are back from our break. Brandon, do you want to tell people what you found during your break?
I had heard that song before.
You heard the song.
But I guess I assumed the name was just da-da-da, da-da-dee, da-da.
All right, so Nick is right more often than Brandon. Tuck that little fact away, people. City of Philadelphia, medium home price. This might be the cheapest on the top 10, $165. It was $875 in New York. So nicknames include Brotherly Love, said that already, and Philly. Philly played an instrumental role in the American Revolution as a meeting place for the founding fathers of the United States, who signed the Declaration of Independence in 1776 and the Constitution in 1787. Boring, right?
I was going to say, did you just do a third grade history report?
Philly is home to the first library in the United States, the first hospital, the first nation capital, the first zoo, 1874, the first zoo, and the first business school.
Congratulations.
First movie I think of, Rocky.
I don't think of a movie. I think of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
That's the one with Kramer and George, right?
It's a blessing to the city of Philadelphia and the rest of the world.
That show is on what, like season 15?
season 13.
Yeah.
And still just as funny.
Do you think they will carry on long into the future, kind of like The Simpsons or South Park?
No, they'll probably end, I would say, probably within the next couple years.
Yeah.
Maybe even sooner.
Well, I know the cast is our listeners of the show, so maybe they'll text us here in a minute.
Yeah, Danny, if you know anything about the future of the show or just want to say hey,
yeah,
give me a shout.
Philadelphia is one of 2 cities on this list that I have never been to.
Me neither.
Look at us, bunch of yokels.
I've seen it on the map. It's purple.
Why is it purple?
I don't know. The guy who colored the map. Ask Rand McNally.
What map?
Just a map. Just a normal, nondescript map.
All right.
That I was looking at.
What else is in the top 10?
Boston.
Boston is number 10. It includes, the metro area includes Cambridge and Newton. 4.8 million people live here. It is the capital of Massachusetts, Boston is. It was originally called by early European settlers. Okay.
Foggy old Boston town.
Trimutane.
Trim my taint?
That's it. Just like your taint, it was named after its 3 mountains, which only traces of which remain today. It was later...
Wait, they wore down their mountains?
Yeah, just like your taint.
Hmm.
The city was later renamed to Boston in 1630, named after Boston, Lincolnshire, England.
Oh, I thought it was going to be named after the Terriers.
Boston was home to the first public school in America, founded in 1635. And the first movie your boy thinks of is Ted.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Ted Danson, because I think of Cheers.
Well, it worked.
If there was a movie just about Ted Danson being himself called Ted, I'd be at the theater to watch it. I think about Cheers.
What do you think of old Cheers?
I mean, what do you want?
Do you like the show? You watched?
Sure. I have fond memories of Cheers and the song. I've been to the Cheers bar. It doesn't look like that inside.
Same.
I went there, and the father of a friend invited me there for a beer, or a couple beers. He was an advertising executive, and I was graduating and hoping to find work in the advertising field. So he had a long, heartfelt discussion about the advertising industry, and then the conversation turned to talk about his daughter, who was going through some trouble at the time. And at the end of the conversation, he was very sweet. He said, I invited you here to give you advice, and you ended up, giving me advice and helping me out with my problem. So we had a great conversation, me and this guy, and I didn't realize at the time that I'd had like 3 or 4 beers and never went to the bathroom. So after we left that bar, we picked up his daughter and my girlfriend from the activity that they were doing, and we drove back home, and I had to pee so bad I could not make it.
Wait a minute, are you about to tell me that you pissed your pants?
I did not pee my pants, but I was as agonizingly close as I could possibly be. I was in the front seat with him, and I said, if you have a chance to stop, I have really got to go. And he said, well, we're almost there. It's only 5 minutes away. And 15 minutes later, I was climbing the back of the seat with my butt cheeks.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you were climbing up onto him to pee inside his mouth.
I didn't even think about that. And I did make it to the apartment building, and I didn't even say goodbye. I just opened the door and went and started peeing. I mean, I was just out of college, so I had horrible habits when it came to drinking beers and peeing. And all the goodwill that I had built up with that man was literally pissed away on the side of that apartment building.
Just cut to the chase. You and this man.
We never consummated anything. And he did not help me find a job later.
Well, you pissed that opportunity away.
I just want to make it clear, was not inebriated.
Wait a minute. Was this in Boston? What was the point of the story?
I was in Boston at that Cheers bar.
Oh, okay. Because sometimes you'll just go on, and I don't even know why.
Well, there was a reason why from the very beginning, and you weren't paying attention.
It's hard to pay attention.
That man's name was Ted Danson.
Ted, listener of the show. You got 3 cities left.
And they're right in the middle. This is actually getting tough now. Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C. is number 6. The metro area includes Arlington and Alexandria. 6.2 million in the metro. Nickname DMV for District DM. I'm about to explain. Hold your horses. District, Maryland, Virginia.
stupid.
It's been the capital of this country. I didn't know that.
It's also nicknamed the Swamp.
I didn't know this, but it was the capital of the U.S. And It's been that way since 1846. The city was actually founded in 1791. It was named after Abe Lincoln.
God damn it.
Not a part of any state. Rather, it resides in the District of Columbia. I didn't know that either.
Did you really not know that?
Yeah, God damn it, Brandon. All right. I'm moving on. I'm not even going to answer that. Get this. D.C. DMV. Most dangerous city in the top 10. Crime rates, that is. Although the crime rate has been dropping for D.C. in recent years, despite a growing population. And last thing on D.C., other than my movie that I think of, is that Union Station in D.C. is the third most visited tourist attraction in the whole country.
Union Station?
Yeah, I said the same thing. White House, Washington Monument,
Lincoln Memorial, Vietnam Memorial.
None of those have more visitors than Union Station, attracting around 36.5 million visitors per year on average.
I think that's inflated somehow. I'm going to guess. I think I know the movie that you first think of.
I bet you don't.
I bet I do.
Go ahead.
Is it Olympus Has Fallen?
No.
Does that even take place in Washington, D.C.?
Isn't that the whole point of the movie?
Well, I don't know. I never saw it.
I never saw it. The first movie I think of is a show, which is House of Cards.
Lame.
Great show.
Ugh, hot button.
Hot button.
Should you tell the folks at home who you're talking about?
The name that we don't dare say.
Voldemort.
Voldemort has been decast from House of Cards. Talking about Kevin Spacey, everyone.
Isn't it weird, though? Like, even if you say, yeah, he is a good actor, people, like, in there, I mean, they know that, yes, you're not saying he's a good actor and anything he does is fine, you know. But people still, when you're like, yeah, Kevin Spacey is a great actor, in the back of their head, people are like, you're disgusting.
Why don't we just move on? DC, number 6. So you're missing number 4 and number 7.
You want to hear about what I think when I think of Washington, D.C.?
Let me stop everything and go back, and let's go back in time now. Accommodate Brandon. What do you think of when you think of D.C.?
Independence Day.
Yeah, fair.
All right, well, good deal. There's 2 left.
Did you see the sequel to Independence Day?
No. After we got our independence, I wasn't worried about it anymore.
All right. Who's number 4 and 7? Some big towns you haven't even mentioned yet.
Well, duh.
Have you seen this list already?
No. San Diego.
No.
Seattle.
No. Seattle's 15, San Diego's 17.
Miami.
Miami is number 7.
I knew it.
It includes Fort Lauderdale and West Palm Beach. Metro area has a population of just under 6.2 million. Miami is the home to the 3rd tallest skyline in the United States with over 300 high-rises.
I didn't know that.
See, I'm full of interesting facts. Miami is named after the nearby Miami River, which was incorporated in the year 1896 with a population at the time of just 300.
So what does Miami mean?
I don't know. There's only so much time in the day, Brandon, for research. Miami.
That was a really shitty fact. It's named after a river with the exact same name, but what's that river named after?
Miami ranks behind only New York City for international tourism in the United States, which surprised me. I would have thought Orlando would have been higher.
I think a lot of people from Europe, if they are going to visit a beach in the U.S., the most convenient one to them geographically is probably Miami, or at least the biggest one.
Check this fun fact out, Brandon. The Miami area was originally inhabited for thousands of years by indigenous Native American tribes. The Chaquistas occupied the area for 1,000 years before. This is the end of the sentence. I copy and pasted this. The Chaquistas occupied the area for 1,000 years before encountering Europeans, period.
That does not speak well to Europeans. May your reign last 1,000 years unless you run into one pasty white man.
We should build a wall around Europe and make them pay for it. First film I think of from Miami is a show again, and it's Dexter.
Oh, mine is Miami Vice.
See, like 3 or 4 times now, you've named off things where the name of the city is in the name of the show. So I give you negative points for critical thinking. But I'll tell you about Dexter. Dexter was... Okay.
I have the most confused, angry look on my face.
Because of what I said about your lack of critical thinking?
Yes.
Would you agree that we are in a golden age of television right now when it comes to the quality of what's on TV?
Sure.
As far as dramas and comedies and just shows.
Mm-hmm.
That was not always the case.
We're about to talk about CSI Miami?
No. Shows before, for the longest time, were just sitcoms or, reality shows? But somewhere
they still are. Like, if you look at the network lineup, every show is a doctor, police officer, or lawyer show. And I realize that they keep using those formats because those professions are, I guess, interesting. And then also they have a lot of people coming in and out of their work every day. So there's constantly a new story, but they are so beaten to death.
Well, I don't disagree. But where I was going with that is that in this golden age of television, the first, drama series that I ever got into that led me down the path that eventually brought me to Breaking Bad and...
down that primrose path.
Fargo and, all the other really good shows I've seen since. First one was Dexter. Before Dexter, I never watched TV at all. And when I did, it was like Seinfeld. So Dexter was the first show that kind of brought me down that path. And as most Dexter fans will agree, really strong start, really bad ending. But you've never seen Dexter, right?
I've seen the first season of Dexter.
He kills people.
See, I came into the golden age of television when it began with Sopranos. Mm-hmm. And the bar has been set, and it's actually to my detriment. The bar has been set impossibly high.
You'd still put Sopranos number one ever that you've seen?
Yep. First show I think about when I think about Miami is The Sopranos, because I'm just thinking about Sopranos.
All right, you have one city left, but before we do that, I'm going to go through the list, starting back at number 20. So these include a few that you haven't even guessed yet. Number 20 is Baltimore. Number 19 is Denver. Number 18 is Tampa. Number 17, San Diego. 16, Minneapolis, St. Paul. 15, Seattle. 14, Detroit, which is, by the way, the number one most dangerous city in the U.S. for crime.
Look out.
Number 13 is Riverside, which I feel like no one ever talks about.
Riverside, California?
Yeah. That includes San Bernardino.
God bless.
Say it for me.
San Bernardino.
Thank you. Number 12 is San Francisco. Number 11 is Phoenix. Now we're in the top 10. 10 is Boston. 9 Atlanta. 8 Philly. 7 Miami. 6 DMV/Washington, D.C. 5 Houston. 4 you're missing. 3 Chicago. 2 Los Angeles. 1 the Big Apple, New York City.
I'm going to nail number 4 with my next guess.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
You got it. Also known as the Big D.
Stands for dumb.
Dallas-Fort Worth Arlington has a metro of 7.4 million. And actually, this metro is the second fastest growing metro in the United States. Behind Houston, actually.
Do you know why it's growing so fast?
I think people just hear Big D and they just start flocking. Actually, here's one reason maybe. Dallas is recognized as having the 6th largest LGBT population in the United States.
Well, that's a bright spot for them.
Yeah,
I would say.
Well, I'm being serious. Like maybe that's the reason that it's growing.
Maybe I would say a negative against them, but a reason they may be growing is because people drive 95 miles an hour in the far right lane on the highways, or 50 miles an hour in the passing lane. It is a free-for-all in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I can't believe that they are not mentioned. Well, I guess there's a difference between traffic and shitty drivers. But Memphis,
they're in the top 10 for traffic for sure. But
Memphis, you're off the hook for shitty drivers. Number one shitty driver city in America that Brandon has ever been to. Tippy top.
Okay.
Dallas-Fort Worth.
Got it. Speaking of Dallas-Fort Worth, median home price, $385, higher than I expected. Dallas was preceded by thousands of years of varying cultures. The Caddo people inhabited the Dallas area before Spanish colonists claimed the territory. In the 18th century, as part of the part of New Spain. But Dallas later was developed along with Fort Worth due to the construction of major railroad lines through the area.
Yeah, stockyards.
Allowing access to cotton, cattle, and later oil in North and East Texas.
Hell yeah.
Dallas serves as the headquarters for 9 Fortune 500 companies, 9 Fortune 500 companies that live in the city limits. And I don't know. Okay, here's a really little known fact. I had to do a lot of digging to find this obscure fact. So everyone out there, and be sure to take out a pen and paper, write this down. You don't want to forget this so that you can impress people at parties and get-togethers. And also brace yourself for
Did Jerry Jones buy Dallas?
JFK was assassinated in Dallas.
In his head.
Didn't know that. And the first movie I think of is directly related to that, because the first movie I think of is actually a show, which is actually a book, which is 11/22/63 by Stephen King.
I think you're going to be mad at me again.
Hang on, before you answer. 11/22/63, amazing book. It's by Stephen King. It's also a series on Hulu. I give the series on Hulu a meh. It's okay. But the book...
We give it 3 bags of popcorn.
3 shots to the head out of 5. But the book is a must-read. Can't recommend enough. Brandon's read it as well. It's not a horror book. Go out of your way to read it. But Brandon, what is going to make me mad about your...
The first show I think of when I think of Dallas is the show Dallas, which takes place in Dallas at South Fork Ranch. Sorry.
But who shot JR?
I don't remember. In the finale, JR shot his reflection in the mirror. They meant to make it seem as though JR had murdered himself, because Patrick Duffy comes in and looks around and has a look on his face like, oh shit, JR's brains are everywhere. But then they did a reunion show and he just got mad and shot the mirror.
So that was recent, wasn't it? The reunion?
It was it was in the 2000s at some point. Larry Hagman is dead now. He took his big eyebrows and went to heaven.
You ever think about, you saying the 2000s made me think of this, but how people say the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s,
mm-hmm.
You always know immediately, oh, they're talking the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 1900s. Soon, that's going to be 2000s. Once we're out of the 2020s.
I can't wait until people start making stupid jokes about the year 2020.
Well, I don't know if you'll be alive by then. I mean, you're pushing it. All right, Dallas is number 4. Real quick, again, top 10. Starting at 10, Boston, Atlanta, Philly, Miami, D.C., Houston, Dallas, Chicago, Los Angeles, New York City. Oh, and then Akron, Ohio is right above New York. Forgot that.
Acorn, Ohio.
That's right. We did it, Brandon. Made it through.
We did it. I won.
People who don't like geography may have turned us out a while ago, but that's okay. We're left with our most loyal listeners, which includes Leo and who was the other one we said?
Jeff Goldblum. I don't know.
Yeah, they all. If you have a celebrity, they're listening to the show. So should you.
Shout out to Christina Applegate.
Okay. Well, before we leave you, we'll remind you to please leave us 5-star review on iTunes /Apple Podcast. Everyone who does that this month will be receiving a personalized windbreaker and Brandon's hot dog recipe via the mail. But really, honestly, it does take you 5 seconds to leave us a review. We'd really appreciate that. If you could do it, it helps this show grow. We will be back next week. Brandon will have a top 10-ish list. I won't know what it is until we hit record. If you do have any ideas for future episodes, please drop us a line on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at 10ishpod. You can also email us at 10ishpod@gmail.com. Brandon, what else we got?
Just for the record, Nick ate that hot dog.
The debate rages on. We'll let the people decide. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Bye, Memphis.
Bye, America. God bless America. like to thank Kevin McLeod for his song Hackbeat, which we found on Incompetech.com for the official Tennis Podcast theme.